Yeah, I'm going to keep it quite short. I just want to say a big thank you to the fans here in Jeddah. It's been a great weekend. I love the track, and yeah, the rest is what it is. I'm looking forward to Miami, so see you there.
The triple header is over. We have a new championship leader and quite the controversial start to our 2025 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. The race did provide some entertainment throughout the field, but not as much as we were expecting, with the top three really being so close. McLaren still is the quickest car, but it was really about who was in front that had the clean air that would dictate who was the winner of the race. Obviously, with Max and Oscar starting up in the front, we knew it was going to be fireworks from the start, as both of them have that mentality of, if I'm ahead, I'm going to stay ahead. George starting in P3, I thought we were going to see an electric start from him as well, but with Max and Oscar taking up most of the track, it was pretty much impossible for George or even Charles to even have a sniff on the inside or outside. But let's talk about this controversial penalty, whether it was deserved or not, and why Max was kind of hindered by his own rule he's invented, and in general the Saudi GP, talking about all the teams. If you're new here, please go ahead and subscribe. We're making our way to 100K, and would mean the world to have your guys' support. Amazing per usual. But let's get started with this review of the Saudi Arabian GP. I think qualifying has been the most exciting part of 2025, as every single session has been extremely close. Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull. It seems to be a toss-up who's going for pole, and while I do believe the McLaren car is quite easily the strongest, I think the drivers in the other teams make the competition even closer, like a guy like Max, who ended up putting in a thrilling pole position on Saturday, and on Sunday was starting in P1 because of it. Now, Oscar was going to have the inside line, naturally being in P2, but Max had the cleaner line going down into turn 1. Oscar ends up getting a brilliant start, gets side by side with Max, goes into turn 1, Max tries throwing it on the outside, ends up cutting the corner, and that's really where our GP starts. But let's analyze it a bit more. Now, going into this first turn, two cars can go together, but typically it doesn't happen, especially when these guys know it is going to be the one with the clean air that will win the GP. Even before the race started, George Russell was talking with Max as they were saying that the McLaren car is the strongest. You gotta be ahead to have any chance to actually take the victory over that car. But with the electric start that Oscar had, he ends up getting the inside line. He is a nose ahead at the apex, and he does push off Max. Max would have made the corner, but he ends up bailing out, seeing as Oscar closed off that outside line, which then forced Max to go off the track, but Max did not give the position back, hence why he got the 5-second penalty. Now, Oscar hit him with what is known as the Max Verstappen move, and it is taking those rules to the limit, being the driver ahead on the apex, which Oscar was, and he pushed Max as wide as possible, giving him pretty much no room to actually make the move back. But it is fair, Max has made this move multiple times. I can even look back to Coda last year, where he pushed off Lando going into turn 1, and multiple other times. And obviously Max was pretty pissed after it. It definitely wasn't something that he was happy about at the very end of the race, but just like he's done the move to other people, he was done on this time. And fair play to Oscar. As you can see, the guy has no fear whatsoever. That's why he is the championship leader right now after this race. And truly, you gotta have the balls to go with a guy like Max. Max, who takes it to the limit, which we have to appreciate. This guy is putting in a championship fight in what is easily the third, maybe the second on some weekends, fastest car. He doesn't have the quickest car. He's competing with these McLarens who are a rocket ship, whether you'd like to believe it or not. And every weekend, he is the reason why we get the entertainment. Does he have the right to be mad? Of course he does. He lost the race. He was in P2, arguably had the faster race pace in that first stint, which we will now talk about. As he did end up staying ahead, it gave him the clean air. Oscar was behind him. There were a couple of attempts with DRS. He wasn't close enough to throw it up on the inside. And plus, if you look at it from Oscar's perspective, why take the risk? The guy has a 5-second penalty. It would just be too risky to actually try pulling off a move where he knows Max is going to put everything into defending him, because he needed to stay ahead to try and compensate for that 5-second penalty. So my conclusion from that is it is fair. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. It's obviously going to be very decisive on whether or not it truly should have happened that way, but think about it from both perspectives. Think about how Max has done it in the past and what are the rules in Formula 1. He ended up making about a 2 to 3 second gap in his GP before they ended up going into the pit stops. And while there was some battling amongst the field, it wasn't extremely entertaining. It was more interesting to see can Max make a big enough gap to actually come out in a little bit of clean air and try and catch Oscar, because it was clear the car was fast, but obviously not quick enough. Now, the only interesting fight that did happen was between Lando and Lewis. Good for Lewis, trying to keep him back for 2 laps. A lot of struggle for Lewis here. He was 31 seconds behind his teammate by the end of the GP, and it's clear he's not very comfortable with that car, whether that be in race pace or qualifying pace. The rear of the car is a little too tricky for him. He does end up actually doing a little bit of DRS chicken with Lando, and it ends up actually helping him out into turn 1, making the overtake twice on Lando, because Lando was a bit too ambitious going for it before they go into that huge DRS straight, but eventually making the move. I gotta give him props. He started in P10, finished off in P4, had a very good stint on the hards. The medium stint at the end, could he have caught Leclerc? We'll talk about it later. But he started making his way through the field. That's when Oscar ended up going into the pits for a hard to obviously finish off the race. Yet again, a 1 stop. I do think Saudi Arabia's really got to get this figured out to where we have a 2 stop in some way, maybe even C6 tires. That is now a possibility, as there was pretty much no tire wear in this GP. Yes, the mediums got destroyed, but it wasn't even because of the track, it was more so the dirty air and being behind cars. Now Max on the lap after ends up going into the pit and ends up taking that 5-second penalty there. Plus, yet again, Red Bull did not give him a very quick stop. I mean, this Red Bull team is kind of falling apart internally in comparison to what we've seen them be like in 23 or even 24. Those pit stops were still lightning. I will say Oscar probably made the move of the GP on Lewis Hamilton going into that really quick turn to start off sector 3. That was quite nasty, and the dust that flew up made it look even better. It was a very ambitious move to go for. It did help him actually get a bit of space though to actually get ahead of Verstappen by a decent amount. Now at some point in the GP, lap 26, Alonso and Bortoleto ended up getting together. It's going to be a very interesting flight home from his manager. As Liam made the overtake, Alonso wanted to follow through. Bortoleto did not see him, almost sent him straight into the wall. Thankfully, both came out okay, but it was definitely a hair-raising move that almost sent the guy that got him into Formula 1 into the wall. Now the gap ends up closing up between Norris and Piastri. He did a great stint on the hards, ends up pitting around lap 31 to go on the mediums. In this meantime, not a lot of people are talking about it, but Leclerc had an exceptional race. To me, that was clearly the driver of the day. I mean, he took the Ferrari to a different level, stayed ahead of Lando, got ahead of George, and got Ferrari's first podium, which is just quite sad to say considering we're this far into the season, being 5 races in. And while Lewis did win the sprint race, in the actual races, there have not been a single podium by this Ferrari car. Now on the inside of the pits and the outside, Lando got pretty close to getting a penalty, just barely touching the white line on the inside to just make it in, also locking up, taking a lot of speed into the pit lane itself. And on the outside, he just nicked the white line, but I'm glad they didn't give him a penalty. There was no reason to. As I stated in my driver of the day, on lap 38, Leclerc made a nice move on George Russell, pretty easy with the tire advantage that he had. George did everything he could, but the Mercedes car clearly in race pace isn't as good as even the Ferrari and probably the Red Bull. Finishing off our race, we had Oscar P1, Max P2, and Charles P3. We ended up hearing those end of race interviews of our podium. Max gave us a nice short, sweet statement, which you heard in the beginning of the video. And clearly the guy was mad, but I'd love to hear what everybody thinks of this penalty. It's gonna obviously be controversial. I think more people are gonna lean towards the side that it was fair, but I'd love to hear an argument as to why you don't think it's fair as well. An Australian driver leading the championship is quite something. I think Max is gonna be a guy to fight with for the rest of the season. Spain can't come quick enough. That front flexi wing that's going to change there will make, I think, a big difference because the Red Bull car clearly has some speed. It's those rear limited tracks where it's struggling, but I'm glad that 2025 is delivering upon what we expected from race to race. Even if there hasn't been too many overtakes, at least it's super entertaining and when the drivers are close, and obviously a lot of strategy being talked about in each GP. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Please leave a like, subscribe, it'd mean the world, and peace.